G'day legends. Have you ever been working on a track, you're mixing away, you think that it sounds absolutely awesome, and then you go away, take a little break, and you come back and you listen later and you realize that you have absolutely overcooked this track. You didn't need those 4 EQs and those 3 compressors all on that one channel. You have absolutely overprocessed the sound. And that's what I want to talk about today, is overprocessing, because doesn't matter how long you've been mixing for, you're going to fall into this trap pretty regularly. It does happen. You feel like you're doing a good thing, you're adding on all these processes, and then you realize when you bypass them, you've actually kind of maybe pushed it too far over the edge and overcooked the sound. So if you can recognize that, that's a good thing, because then you can come back, you can try again, and you can fix it up. But at the same time, it's annoying. And it is bad when you send out tracks that are overcooked to clients, because they hear it with the fresh ears and they hear straight away that something doesn't sound right. So it is important to take those breaks, come back, check your mixes. That's when we really hear things. That's a really important time in mixing, is when you come back to a sound fresh and you hear it again after not listening to it for a while. You can hear all the problems pretty quickly. So that's a very important thing to keep in mind when mixing. And that is exactly what happened to me while working on a track this week. I was mixing a song. It's kind of an acoustic, folky kind of song, and I want to keep it pretty organic and nice, warm and cozy sounding. Now, the sound that I was having particular trouble with is the main instrument, the acoustic guitar. Acoustic guitars are such a fiddly instrument to mix, and it is finger-picked, it's kind of soft, and there's a couple of other sounds in the mix too. There's some drums and there's some bass, and there's also some vocals that kind of get down into the lower register as well. So there's a lot of sounds that are conflicting in the low end of this mix. They're fighting for attention. And so to get this sounding a bit tighter, I wanted to clean up this finger-picked acoustic guitar, because on its own, it sounds really nice. Like I'll play it to you in a minute. It's got this nice, warm, cozy sound about it. But once all the other instruments in, it does get a bit rumbly, a bit masked, and a bit muddy. So check this out. This is the overprocessed sound. This is what I thought sounded good the first time round. You can hear those string noises really bright and cutting through. That jumps out at you straight away. It's like, oh, it's a little bit like thin sounding. It's a little unpleasant hearing all of that string noise. Let me play you the unprocessed sound now. So you can hear what I was trying to do. The raw sound is nice. It's just a little boomy, but the processed sound is cleaner, but it's also got some harshness and it sounds a little over EQ'd. And so surely there's a nice middle ground here. So let me show you the final processing that I ended up on. All right, so it's a little bit nicer, right? It's still got that warmth about it. The high end is not as harsh and jumping out. It just sounds like a nice middle ground between the raw and overprocessed sound. And then in the context of the mix, this one sits in there so much better. So this is the appropriately processed sound, in my opinion. So you can hear the low end on the raw sound just gets a little bit muddy when everything's going on. Now, in particular, when the vocals are going, this is why a lot of the cleanup had to happen, because even though you could probably get away with that, like there as an instrumental, like a nice warm, cozy acoustic guitar sound, once the vocals are in there, it does get masked. So we'll just do a little snippet so you can hear how this is creating masking and how when we go to the process sound, it does actually make the vocal sound a lot cleaner in the mix.
What it is that we seek, it was once we craved. what it is that we seek, it was once we craved.
So you can hear the vocals a lot cleaner and clearer in the mix, but it still has all of its warmth. So I didn't want to take away from the vocals warmth by, cutting the vocal to make room for the acoustic guitar. I wanted to clean up the guitar to make room for the vocal so we can keep that nice, soft, warm, cozy vocal sound. So let me quickly show you what I did with the over-processing on the acoustic guitar, the kind of pitfalls that I fell into, and then the mindset that I shifted to get a more appropriate processing on this acoustic guitar. So here's where I started. Slate Digital's VMR, just a bit of VCC. This basically is very small amount of coloring to the sound of a console sound, which we have on an SSL Brit 4K kind of sound. And then I'm using the Custom Series EQ. This is just a preset called Acoustic Guitar Warm Present. It's actually pretty good if you have a boomy guitar. This is a nice preset. It's just got a high pass filter and then a couple of little frequency points boosted, which do sound nice on the guitar. So it does a good job of cleaning up the boominess and adding a little bit of sparkle to the sound. Then I have Revival, again, just going for adding a little bit of sparkle to the fingers. And then next, a little bit of chorus. I wanted to add a little bit of modulation to the sound and see if I could sneak in a bit of sneaky width to it as well. So just on 10%, it's quite subtle, but it does add to kind of the effect that I'm chasing here. Then just a little bit of boost on the trim because we lost a little bit of volume with all the cutting. Now, to be honest, probably could have stopped there. That's probably enough for this sound. I don't think it really needed much more. It probably just needed something to help deal with the occasional spanky brightness of the fingers because it's kind of nice and soft and then all of a sudden you get these bright plucks come through. But anyway, the next thing I decided to add was a compressor. So we've got the Fairchild, trying to kind of warm it up a little bit, round it out a little bit. The Fairchild's kind of good at this. Incredibly subtle amount of compression going on here, kind of a medium release time. The mix is at 50%. It's very subtle. So that's not doing much anyway. But then this is where the problems start to come in. That's kind of still, that's appropriate processing for what we got going on here. Sounds all right. Then the next thing was cutting. I started getting a little frivolous, cutting away some sounds to try and make space in the mix. Like I think I was trying to attack these high frequencies that were jumping out, thinking I was getting some masking stuff and trying to cut it out of the guitar. Let's have a listen to what this sounds like. It kind of cleans it up a bit, but it's also making it sound a bit more hollow. You'll hear it in the context of the mix as well. Just hearing a lot of the scrapey top end now. So we're carving out a lot of the color of the guitar essentially, which is what happens when you listen to things for too long. All you start to hear is frequencies and you can start to just cut. Like you're like, oh, I don't like this frequency, and you cut it. It's probably fine. It's probably that you've just been listening for too long and you're getting a little too excited with your EQing. Anyway, then I thought, hey, I want to try and make this a little bit wider. So I grabbed another EQ, another instance of Pro Q, and I have done a boost to the sides. So a little boost around 240 Hertz, 3 dB boost there, and then about a 4.5 dB cut in a similar area down the middle at 250 Hertz, thinking I can clear some space for the vocals, make the guitar sound a little bit wider on the sides. This is going to be cool. So in theory, it's a cool idea, but you can actually hear it doesn't actually sound that good. It's actually made the guitar sound really thin now. Like it's lost all of the body that was down the center of the mix, and all we're hearing is like scratchy fingers now. So that's where the overprocessing has kicked in, and this sound is now, it's not great. So again, listen to that in the context of the mix, just how scratchy the guitar is. Go back to our raw sound. Okay, it's boomy, but it's better. It's just not sounding terrible, right? So when I came back to this, I was like, man, I have overcooked this. Like I went too far with whatever I was trying to do here. So an interesting thought is when you're processing a sound is how can I do this in the least amount of moves as possible? How can I do this and keep it true to the sound, but just enhance it and make it work in the context of the mix? So I had to think differently rather than just like, cutting and doing and just getting in there. Had to think like, what does this guitar need? What's going to make this sound good? So scrap that and start it again. This time I put the raw track in the mix and I just listened to it. What don't I like about this? It's too boomy. Like I want the low end cleaner. So I just grabbed an instance of Pro Q4. Let's kind of keep this nice and simple. This is my acoustic guitar EQ that I ended up with. I had like 3 EQs on the other one. You had that custom lift in Slate Digital, and then we had 2 instances of Pro Q4, and they all had all these little things going on. This is 3 moves right here, and it pretty much has nailed the sound that I wanted. And basically, it's a high pass filter. So I know some people are like, do I use high pass filters? Guys, you can use high pass filters. Don't stress over it too much, right? So this one is literally just getting rid of rumble below where anything really is happening. There's just some noise floor rumble and stuff like that. We're just kind of like rolling that away. We're not actually touching really what the guitar is doing. So that's a 12 dB octave to 50 hertz. So let's have a listen to what that's doing. Not much, but you can see that noise floor stuff gets rolled away, which is good for the bass guitar and the bass drum. Now, the big move here is just this super wide bell at 124 hertz. Now, this move is just done in the context of the mix. So if we put this back up to 0, and then I just listened and I just pulled this down until I felt like this was sitting in the mix nice. So to me, that sounds really good with the drums and the bass, just keeping that low end tight and clean. But I also had the vocals in there, so I was hearing kind of the masking that was happening, and that's getting sort of cleaned up. So that was a big thing that I was listening for. Having the vocals in there, like let's just quickly show you that.
What it is that we seek, it was once we craved, the fairy tales through.
You can hear how much better it sounds with the vocal, carving that big space down. And because it's such a wide bell, this is what you'd call musical EQing. It's just very tonal. We're not doing anything drastically like narrow and kind of cutting things away. We're just doing this big, broad shaping of the sound, which sounds really natural still. So then all I did after that was I still want to bring out some sparkle of the fingers, even though there's times when it jumps out. There's like those annoying little sort of harder hits on the strings, sort of plucky sounds. I still want the majority of the guitar to have this nice sparkly sound and clarity to the fingers. So I just boosted like a dB there at around 3 to 4K kind of area with a wide bell as well. That sounds like this. So cool, right? That's pretty much the guitar tone right there. Very simple EQing. And that's sometimes the mindset you have to get into, is like, we don't always have to just jump in and start, oh, I'm going to notch this little bit here, and, this frequency is annoying me here. Sometimes it really is just a big, broad shaping EQ, and that's it, and you nail it. So if you have like 6 EQs on your channel, maybe have a think, can I do this in less moves? Am I kind of overcooking this and cutting it? Because the more EQs you add, the more cuts you make, it does actually kind of just mess with the phase of the sound. It gets like, the sound gets weird. So you got to be careful with how much EQ you are applying to a sound. Then after that, I brought back VMR with just a couple of those kind of flavor things. So we've got the VCC 4KE, that little bit of chorus that we had before, and then a tiny touch of revival for that really sheeny top end sound. So I think that's sounding really cool. Now I know what you're thinking. You're like, well, it's still kind of like annoying on the top end. It is, right? So that's where we're going to use FabFilters Pro MB, and we're just going to use a high shelf, and we're going to focus in on these upper frequencies. You can see I've made a shelf. I've got this band. If you go into the expert mode and then you click on free, you can set the range that's going to trigger the compression. So we're really focusing on any frequencies that spike up here and cross the threshold. That's going to duck this stuff down super fast. And then it's a kind of a slow release, so it's not like super pumpy and aggressive. So check that out. So nice, we've got the low end tighter now. We're doing something to control those annoying high frequencies that sort of spike out of this, and it just sits a lot better in a mix. It doesn't sound thin, and it doesn't sound like it's been over EQ'd and just overcooked. So a massive difference, right? And that's the difference between overcooking something and cooking it just right. So even though with the over-processed sound and the appropriately processed sound, the goal was very similar, like to get that tight low end, clean top end, and make room for the vocals and just remove the boominess in the mix. The results were really different depending on the path that was taken with the processing choices. And it's a really common theme that I see is when too many EQs come into the conversation, things start to fall apart pretty quick. It becomes unnatural. You're either going to make things sound too thin and harsh, you're going to maybe like cut too much character out of the sound. There's a lot of things that can go wrong when you over EQ. There are times when you will have a bunch of EQs, a bunch of compressors on a sound, and it sounds awesome. So don't get me wrong. There are times when having heaps of processing just nails it. There are times when having heaps of processing absolutely ruins it. So you really need to figure out when it works and when it doesn't work. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. If you guys want to support this channel, make sure you hit those links in the description below. Head over to my website, grab yourself a drum sample pack or a mixing course. It's a really great way of supporting this channel and the time that goes into making content. If you want to check out some of my drum samples, check out this next video coming up.